Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney. Today I had to persuade Bob Stewart to show up, and I had to influence Chad to stick around.
Wait a minute. What's the difference?
The difference between what?
Persuasion and influence.
Exactly, gentlemen, because that's what we're going to talk about today and for the next couple of episodes.
So I was persuaded. Is that why you bring me a Diet Coke? Like every time we sit down, you show up with gifts? Is that part of your tactics you're deploying on me here?
It sure could be. It could just be plain old evil manipulation, everybody. So let's dive in to the two words of the day, influence and persuasion. John Maxwell actually defines leadership as simply influence. And I think that's a good place to start. I read another article that said influence, on the other hand, can be defined as the capacity to become a compelling force that produces effects on the opinions, actions, and behaviors of others. It's a force. What causes that force? Our reputation, our position, our authority, our results. There are lots of things that lead up to our ability to influence people, including, our professional results or our personal results or our knowledge or our awards or our recognition. There's so many things. Influence is incredibly important. What's persuasion? Persuasion is winning over somebody, getting them to take action to something, Chad, like buy a product, agree with our new idea, take us up on an offer, do whatever. It's action related. Yeah, influence is something that we deliver. What were you going to say?
I said, I think you had a definition here of persuasion is presenting a case in such a way as to sway the opinion of others, make people believe certain information, or motivate a decision, kind of to take what you were just saying.
Yeah. Whereas influence is having a vision for an outcome, a situation, and motivating people, we're influencing them, so to speak, to work together towards making it a reality without force. If you don't do this, I'm going to shock you, or coercion, manipulation, right?
Okay, so it's that vision that you have. You drive so well. You always have that big vision, and you're able to motivate people to follow along, whereas persuasion isn't just, here's where we're going, let's go. Persuasion is convincing me I need to buy whatever you're selling today.
Yeah, exactly. What I want to imagine is I influence the people in my organization to do things because they want to be a part of our goal and our results and our success, and they want to take advantage of the rewards.
Okay.
I persuade people from time to time to maybe buy a product or a service because I believe it's what's best for them. Right? I'm not influencing them necessarily to buy it, whereas I might influence them to buy your product, Bob, because I might say, I use that. It's been really successful for me. Right? I really like that Peloton or whatever that thing might be, right, Chad? Sure. And because I trust you, I'll be like, oh, well, if Chad does it, I'll buy it. And you influenced me. You didn't persuade me to do it. Whereas if I walked into the Peloton dealership, so to speak, in the mall, right? Yep. And you walk up there and the guy says, if you do it right now, I only have one left, by the way. But if you do it right now, I'm going to give you a great deal. It actually expired yesterday, but if you do it today, that's persuasion. So we're going to talk about both. Now, there are multiple ways to influence somebody, and let's talk about these real quick. Number one, logical. You can influence people through a logical manner. That is where we tap in to their rational, their intellectual, is this the right thing? So
this doesn't work on Bob this way is what you're saying.
That's right. I'm totally off the wall.
Nothing rational about him.
He's mathematical, though.
That is true.
Right? So if I went to Bob and I'd say, Bob, by doing this, it will equal that, and you look at that and you believe the math, you would probably say, I could be influenced by that. If I do this, I get that, and you can prove it? That makes sense to me.
That's logical.
Okay.
Logical. Whereas if I said the next one, which is an emotional appeal, I would be connecting my message, my product, our goals, whatever, our projects, to your goals and your values. Here would be an example. Bob, take a second for me right now. Just daydream. Just look 3 years down the road. And if this particular problem was solved and you never had to worry about money or health or whatever this thing is, how would you feel?
Feel pretty good.
And then I'd say, can you see how doing this would get you there? I'm appealing emotionally to that feeling.
I mean, you literally asked me how would that make you feel, right? I mean, the emotional appeal.
The last way to influence is a cooperative approach, a cooperative appeal. That's where you work together, you collaborate, or you consult, or you coach, you mentor, you create alliances. That's where we're working together to make this change. Bob, what if you and I join the gym together and we work out every morning from 7 to 8?
I think that's a good idea, Ben.
Let's not invite
Chad.
Right. So what are the 3 ways to influence? Logical?
Logical, emotional, and cooperative.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the words that you know would be logical? Based on this data here, can you see, Chad, that it makes sense for you to do X?
So that's the thinking
Yeah.
words in there, whereas emotional, we're going to get to that feeling kind of words that go along with that.
Yeah, and emotional. Wouldn't it feel awesome if you never had to worry about that? Now, I've been in sales and I've been in leadership like you all for a long time, and I've sat at tables where I had to use both.
Sure.
I've sat at tables where I had to use all 3. Like to a wife, I say, can you see mathematically how this is going to net you more money? Right? And to the other spouse, what would it feel like if you had room to work on that car? What would it feel like if your kids had a yard? If you were in this blah, 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 right? And then I think we can do this. Like if we all come together, I think that I could make this a reality.
And that's the cooperative piece you just added at the end. So you've got the thinking, which is that logical. You got the feeling, which is emotional. And then you've got getting in the boat with them for the cooperative.
And people fail to influence because they fail to realize there's more than one way. Logical people tend to always prove it, right? Emotional people tend to always feel it. Some people just want to work together to make everything work, right? I had a buddy, I don't know if he listens to this podcast, his name was Jack, and he came home and came to work the next day and told me about coming home and talking to his wife. And he said his wife, I think her quote was, "Logic isn't everything and feelings aren't nothing." That was the exact example. Is like she felt that it was the right decision. He would always try to prove her wrong. And anybody that's successful in relationships knows that being right is no longer the most important thing.
Yeah.
So there are tactics to influencing people.
Awesome.
And those tactics are simple, and we're going to go through them relatively quickly.
Okay.
One of the tactics is reasoning. This goes back to the first way. That's where you use logic, facts, data, or evidence to show that this request or this vision or this goal or this activity is important, feasible, the next right move.
Got it.
This type of tactic is used all the time in corporate America. It sounds a little something like, hey, can you see how getting this done would create this result and how that would be good for our customers? You know, people that come in with their TPS reports and their spreadsheets and their org charts and their, whatever that thing might be. This type of tactic, research says, it's done best when you already have credibility, influence, and a relationship with somebody. Here's what I mean. If I was to walk into the room and I was to say, here's the data, and you guys didn't know me, you would first try to see if my data was right. But if you had a history of me having accurate data, right? I walk in and say, here's the data. You would look at the data and say, that makes sense. Let's do it.
Sure. No opinion coming from this. Yet isn't it amazing how we'll watch the news and you'll believe the data if you believe that station? Like if you're a CNN watcher, you're going to believe the data they're putting out there. Then you can go flip over to Fox. The data says the exact opposite thing, yet you'll believe it if that person had that credibility already with you, bringing you the information.
Which is dangerous because sometimes you get into this habit of shaking your head.
Right.
Because somebody wins 8 out of 10 times, so you assume all 10 are right. And you could get into a trap in an organization.
Okay, so that's one way, was reasoning. What's number 2, Ben?
Is consulting. And we talked about that already, but that's where we enlist other people to be a part of the conversation by suggesting plans or asking great questions to help people come up with the answer that you might already had. Now, why is it important that they come up with the answer instead of you?
Well, they'll believe themselves.
Yeah.
They never lie to themselves,
They'll
right?
buy into it if they had a part in coming up with the answer.
I have meetings all the time where I know the outcome I want, and I will take them on a journey until I get to that spot.
Yeah. Then sometimes in those meetings, one of us will go, all right, Ben, clearly you're trying to get us somewhere, right? And we can't get there. Can you just tell us where we're going?
Where's the ending? Because we know you're taking us somewhere to self-discover.
A very effective approach, right? Most of the time we don't get to that spot where we're all lost, right? You're able to lead us there. But yeah, super effective.
And, you think about these answers. You guys ever had a time where you paid money, you hired a coach, you got to a mentor, you went to a class, you read a book to give you an answer that you already knew?
You always know the answer.
But you needed to hear it from somebody else, right? Sometimes when you're looking to influence somebody, you can use this type of tactic by saying things like, Chad, just based on your experience, you've been through this before, you know what it takes to lose weight. What do you think the next step for yourself would be? You've done this before. You've done this 100 times. You know how to do it, right? You ask that question and you let him give you the answer. And then you go back and say, what's stopping you from doing that? Because you know how to do it. And you get to take them on that journey. And maybe all he needed was to hear it from you once for you to say, yeah, I know. Okay, I'm going to go do that.
It's that coaching question that drives me crazy. Well, when you don't know the answer and then the coach says to you, well, Ben, if you did know the answer, what would the answer be? Only because they want you to be saying it, and then it comes back at you that way.
This tactic, Chad, is best used when the person you're working with already has the experience, the information, the data. You could just imagine the answer is sitting there already. Remember, the job of the leader is to not always have the answer. The job of the leader is to commit to walking with that person until you find it together.
Right, and nothing in your influence definition had you had the answer. You just had the vision, and you're influencing people to come along.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what was number 3?
Collaborating.
Okay.
Collaborating is when we truly work together to uncover and find a solution. I do this a lot with our team, especially with Bob. We're trying to find a problem or trying to figure out what caused it, a bug in software, right? Some sort of error and wherever. We're trying to figure it out. And the way you do that is you work with that individual. I'm trying to influence Bob to make change. So I will offer resources or assistance to help him find a path to do that. Whether that's me, would it be valuable to you, Bob, if I spent some one-on-one time with you working through this? Or would it be more valuable if I made Josiah or David or Ross or somebody else available? What else do you need? Do you need an assistant? Do you need some technology? Do we need some capital?
Bob, he's asking, jump in, take something. If you need something, grab it.
Yes, all of the above, please.
Yeah, and this person, when you're influencing this person to take action, you're saying, I'm going to remove all the roadblocks. Now what's stopping you?
Right.
Then the person has no more excuses why they can't move forward. You've just stopped it.
So when would be the best time for using this strategy?
When they're frozen, when they feel like they can't take action or they don't know what the next step is, you have to remove the roadblocks.
Got it.
Then they're just looking out in the distance, right? Thinking about, all right, now I can get going.
And the thing, it says collaborating, which would, indicate that like you, Ben, are collaborating with me, but that's not actually the case most of the time, right? You're just facilitating my collaboration with some other resource in the organization.
Many times where Ben has you and I working on, well, what episodes are we going to do this week? We're collaborating on it before we all get together. He's just got the vision that drives it all together. So, yep. Ben, we've got, so far we've gone through reasoning, we've gone through consulting, we've gone through collaborating. What else for some of these influencing tactics?
When I think about the last one, it's inspiring. And when you're inspiring somebody, it helps a lot to have the right background music. And then what you do is you come up with the right words.
Wait a minute. There will be no rapping or singing.
No, I don't
Okay.
need to. You know
Good.
why? Because I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional careers. It all comes down to today, Chad. Either we heal as a team or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here getting the crap kicked out of us, or we can fight, Chad. Back into the light. We can climb out of hell 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you, Bob. I'm too old. I look around and I see all these young faces, and I mean, I've made every wrong choice a middle-aged man could make. I've pissed away all the money, believe it or not. I chased off anybody who's ever loved me, and lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. Life's about inches, boys.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Now we need to pay somebody for the rights to that.
I'm inspired.
All right, Al Pacino has left the building. We've now paid our rights for using Any Given Sunday on all of that, as Ben has inspired the heck out of all of us. You know, when you talked about inspiring in background music, you can't play the Chariots of Fire theme song and not want to go for a run.
Right?
Right? As soon as you hear that, you
that's
just
our
want
problem.
to start
Well,
running.
I don't know
right?
about go for a run, but yeah.
You know you do.
Did you guys know that song I was playing was Peace by Paul Kelly? It's the actual song that played in the background when Al Pacino gave that speech in Any Given Sunday. Do you guys know that?
I didn't know the name of the
couldn't have
piece. I
named it.
definitely knew the scene from the
It's
movie.
wasted on you guys. Anyway, what's inspiring? It's encouraging others to accomplish a goal by appealing to their values, their emotions, their beliefs. Managers love to use this type of tactic to make this inspirational appeal. And what laughs, I laugh, you use a story. The football game where somebody was far behind, or the hockey game, or this time in business when you were losing, or this time in your life where you had lost everything. Like, you hear so many of these influencers. We've interviewed a lot of them that have gone through tough parts in their lives.
They sure have.
Right? Where they tell us the story. And you're looking at that person and you're saying, hey, if that dumb crap like Bob Stewart could figure this out, like I could do it, right? If a knucklehead like Ben could do it, then you're like, whoa, anybody could do that one.
I think a lot of the feedback we get, like in our Facebook group, or when people reach out to us directly, a lot of the influence is around this inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? They feel inspired by something they heard, or that dumb shit, Bob can do it, right? I could do it. But it's definitely inspiration is why most people reach out to us, right? They're sharing that they were inspired.
Or it's something in one of the interviews. You know, they were so inspired by something that someone said from one of these interviews that we've had. You're absolutely right. It's a huge form of influence. And we do it sometimes without even realizing that we're doing it, just because we've been there before and we're telling the story.
The inspirational approach is done and is best done, Chad, when people look at that person as an expert or somebody they trust.
Okay.
Right? And they're looking at that person and they feel inspired to become what that person has become, or what that person has, or what that person has done. And they look at where that person has came from and they realize that person's journeyed a lot farther than they ever have, or they have to go to get to where that person's at. And it seems possible.
That's awesome.
So we influence people by having logical approaches, by consulting them, asking them questions, walking hand in hand with them on the journey, or by collaborating and removing roadblocks, or by flat out inspiring them to take action. That reminds me of a statement we say here often, that it's so much better to empower people than it is to impress them.
Say it again.
It's so much better to empower people than to impress them. What that says, Chad, is that when people are impressed, they're going to come up with all these reasons why they can take action. When they're empowered, they're actually influenced to take action, right? I believe I can do that. I feel empowered to do something. Too many podcast speakers, trainers, inspirational people are impressive. Not enough of them are truly empowering.
And then isn't it amazing? Because when they're empowered, they inspire others by what they've done. All right, so let's flip the coin, because we said one was inspiration, one was inspiring, one was influencing. Forgive me, as we're just talking about that. One's influencing. The other side of that coin was persuasion. I gave your definition a little bit earlier on persuasion, of presenting a case in such a way as to sway the opinions of others. Let's talk a little bit about persuasion and how it's different, Ben.
Well, persuasion is a tool required for every leader, business owner, manager, spouse, parent, dog owner.
Yeah.
Right. You have to learn how to persuade, because persuasion and influence, when you build skills around those areas, that is leadership. That is mentoring.
So what you're saying is treats work for your dog and some of your people that you work with.
Treats work well for me.
Yes.
That's why he brought me the Diet Coke when we started.
There you
That's
go, right?
right.
Just bringing treats for Bob.
Persuasion and influence skills help with leadership, mentoring, recruiting, sales, negotiation, coaching, marketing, brand building, promotion. These are all tools that when you understand them, you can get a better result. Because isn't your goal to influence customers, influence employees, persuade them to take action?
Yes.
We do that by helping customers, employees, partners, communities find the balance between pain and pleasure. Not like 50 Shades of Grey, like pain, but what is a button that can be pushed for somebody? And we're motivated by both pain and pleasure, right?
Yes.
What is pain? Pain is finding dissatisfaction, hurt, unfulfilled personal needs. So that when you find those things, you can use it as a key to motivate others or yourself to create change or take action.
Because people will run away from pain all day long.
Once they realize it. My goal in sales, marketing, leadership, all this is to find somebody's button. A button that if I pushed, they would make change.
My wife calls it the pain point. I mean, she's like a classically trained salesperson. What's their pain point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one approach. One would be the positive point, right? Not just a negative button. A positive would be, how would you feel if this is no longer an issue? If you're dreaming about something positive in the future. The negative one would be, if you look forward in 5 or 10 years and nothing has changed, how would you feel? If because of all the things you've done, you lose your custody or your marriage or your business, or you have to lay off employees, how would you feel? That is a painful button if you're dealing with somebody who cares about people.
Okay, so things. Which way? I mean, are people more likely to run for pleasure or run from pain? What do you feel?
I think it depends on the person. I'll tell you, I'm more motivated by fear of loss than I am by gaining something. Just the way I'm wired. I'm motivated by not letting people down, not getting something new.
Bob, what about you guys?
I feel like this is one of those, which side of the bed did I wake up on this morning, right? I think if you were to ask my wife, I'm probably equally balanced between these things. And it's really just a matter of which side of the bed did I wake up on? I mean, I don't know if that's a cop-out answer. If you were forcing a gun to my head, I'd probably say I'm more motivated by pain for some of the similar reasons Ben said. I don't like to disappoint people, let people down. I'm pretty balanced here, I think.
It's the same thing for me. And I remember when I first went to work with you, the first thing you did, Ben, was you actually reached out to my former leader and you asked right then, you said, what's the best way to motivate him? And there was a pain point right there that they just handed over to you and you were able to say, good, all right, you don't do this, this is what's going to happen and that's going to hurt, isn't it? And it was like, yes. And I was like, and it would never allow it to happen. I don't know how many people I have the pleasure of coaching with that once we put money on the line to be given to an ex, right? Once you put something on the line that you have to give to someone who has hurt you along the way, boy, they will do anything they have to make sure that they don't experience that pain. But I could put whatever pleasure it is in front of them, and it doesn't matter what bonus is waiting at the end of them. They're not going to go get it.
You know, one of the number one most powerful tools in persuasion that I found is one simple statement. I'm really disappointed.
I hate when he says that.
It like hits you at your core, because when you work with people that you care about and they care about you and they know you care about them, that is a button that if you push, good people will respond.
I've had you say that a few times. And I mean, all you can say in response is, yeah, I'm disappointed in myself. You know,
That's all we can say, or just walk
you don't
away.
you don't want to have that conversation again. It's a powerful motivator.
So, in order to persuade others, you have to be able to persuade yourself. And what I mean by that, you have to understand what would motivate you to take action and study it and notice when you're being persuaded, influenced, and so on. Persuasion is really, it's an action of getting somebody to do or believe something. Negative words for that could be manipulation, right? Forcing, coercion, inducement. Positive really could be helping, coaching, mentoring,
Encouraging.
leading, encouraging, selling, begging. When I think about persuasion and influence, I think of Charlie Munger. You guys know that Charlie Munger is kind of the second in command to Warren Buffett. And when Charlie was asked, apparently, what his favorite business book of all time was, it was Influence. The Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert B. Cialdini.
Yes. Psychology and marketing professor from Arizona State University.
Fascinating individual who dives in to the science of persuasion. And I highly recommend you reading his book. I've bought many copies in the past, done a lot of research, read it multiple times. He talks about the science of persuasion in 6 tactics that can be used and are used against you at all times.
Wait, how many?
6.
Is that enough for a list, Chad? Is that
I don't
enough?
know if this is a list or if this is a series, Ben. Should we be diving into these deeper than we have time for right now?
Makes sense.
Okay.
So let's cover the
Let's give them the
6.
list, and then we're going to come back with episodes where we're going to dive deeper into these 6 and make a little mini series out of this persuasion.
Sounds good.
All right. So what are they? Number
Number
one?
one, reciprocity.
What's it mean? Just give us the quick definition.
When one person does something for another person and the other person has a sense of debt owed and is compelled to repay that thing.
Which
Okay.
is exactly why I started today's meeting by giving Bob a Diet Coke and you a cookie. Reciprocity. Because if I give you a cookie, you feel obligated to give me a cookie back.
I did give you one back. There was one left over in the back.
Perfect.
All right. Number
Chad
2 on
gave
the
Ben
list.
the end of his cookies. That's
Number 2 on this list, Ben.
Scarcity. When you know there's only one left, there's only one cookie, right? You take action,
Supply and demand concept.
basically.
Okay.
But there's no more supply.
No more supply.
So
This
we
is
all
it.
demand it.
Got it. All
We
right.
want it. It's a beanie baby. There's none left. We have to have them.
Don't bring PTSD when you bring those up. All right. Number 3 on the list.
Authority.
Okay. Meaning?
some granted power or right to give orders, make decisions, or enforce obedience.
Meaning that we can be persuaded by somebody who has the appearance of authority. An example might be a police officer.
Flight attendant on the flight because they're in a position they have authority to. Yeah. All right.
Somebody in a uniform.
Got it. Okay. Number 4.
Consistency. People want to be consistent with their words, their actions, and their statements.
Okay. Number 5.
Liking the
Not the act on Facebook.
no,
Okay.
the ability for people to want to do business, be influenced, or work with people that they like.
Okay. Obvious. And
How to
number
win friends and influence people 101, so to speak.
All right. Another great book. All right. And number 6 on this list?
Consensus.
Meaning?
When people are uncertain, they look around to see what everybody else is doing. Like, you're out in the ocean and everybody starts swimming frantically towards shore. You don't even have to know that there's a shark. You just start heading.
Plus, magically, whenever there's a shark, you hear the music.
People start running. They all start running. You're like, I don't know where they're running, but I'm following them because they have something cool.
So it's herd mentality concept.
You go to the grocery store. Everybody's buying toilet paper. You're like, wow, what do people need so much toilet paper? Like, I don't need that much toilet paper. And then everybody's filling up their carts with toilet paper. Like, what is it that I don't know about toilet paper? I need more toilet paper. And then you fill up yours with toilet paper.
Now we've got scarcity going along with consensus. All right, so we've got reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus as the science of persuasion, the 6 areas that we're going to dive into in the future episodes here. So Ben, we've talked influence, we've talked persuasion, how they're different, how they work together, these pieces that are coming. Give us one last thought on influence and persuasion before we turn this into the series that's coming.
Tune in because it's the secret to leadership, sales, recruiting, marketing, coaching, mentoring. Your ability to influence and persuade will determine the total amount of success that you will have in all areas of your life.
All right. And if you have any influence with the people in your world, if you can persuade the people that you know, now's the time to influence and persuade them to check out the podcast. All they have to do is text the word podcast to 59559. That's 59559. Just text the word podcast. Or have them visit winmakegive.com where they can link right to the podcast. Make sure they subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're leaving us ratings and reviews and joining us in our Facebook group. And stay tuned as we talk more about influence and persuasion.